The man who needs no one is love's greatest challenge. His silence shakes the loudest hearts. His distance draws the deepest desires. Love craves to be needed, yet he stands complete. In his independence lies the riddle, hard to reach, impossible to forget. Independence is one of the most captivating mysteries a man can carry. There is something magnetic about someone who stands whole on their own, someone who does not lean on others for validation or depend on constant reassurance. This kind of independence creates a silent authority, a quiet strength that does not need to announce itself. It is not arrogance, nor is it coldness. Rather, it is the presence of someone who knows who they are and refuses to be shaken by the noise of the world. Such a man is not driven by the hunger to be liked, approved, or constantly affirmed, and that is what makes him so difficult to ignore. The truth is, most people look for relevance through others. They want to be needed, to be essential, to be the reason someone else feels whole. But when faced with a man who is already complete, who does not seek saving or completion, the balance of power shifts. Love itself begins to tremble because it realizes it cannot easily plant roots in such soil. This independence becomes both intimidating and irresistible, a paradox that unsettles yet intrigues the heart. The mystery lies in the fact that he seems unreachable, but that very distance only intensifies the desire to draw closer. What makes this independence so powerful is the silence it carries. He does not rush to explain himself, he does not beg to be understood, and he does not place his worth in anyone's hands. The less he reveals, the more others want to know. His mystery is not built on pretending or playing games. It is the natural outcome of his self-sufficiency. In a world where people constantly chase attention, the man who needs no one becomes the rarest presence. Scarcity always increases value, and his refusal to be accessible makes him unforgettable. Yet this mystery is not without challenge. Love is used to being welcomed, to being embraced, to being treated as the center of someone's world. But when it meets a man who does not chase, who does not plead, who does not crumble without it, love itself feels tested. It begins to ask questions. How do I reach him? How do I make him feel my presence? How do I become necessary in a life where I am not required? These questions are what create the fascination, the endless pull toward the man who carries independence like a crown. His mystery lies in the balance he holds. He is open to connection, but he does not collapse without it. He is capable of deep love, but not desperate for it. He chooses, he does not cling, and that is what love cannot resist. Independence, in its purest form, is not about isolation, it is about freedom. And freedom will always be love's greatest challenge. Love carries with it an unspoken desire to be needed, to be irreplaceable, to matter in someone's life in a way no one else does. It is not content with being just another presence. It craves significance. Love wants to see itself reflected in someone's actions, in their dependence, in their longing. It thrives on the belief that without it, life feels incomplete. That is why when love encounters a man who is whole without it, the ground beneath it begins to shake. He does not collapse in its absence. He does not beg for its return, and he does not measure his worth by its approval. That calm defiance unsettles love because it contradicts its very nature. Every heart secretly wants to feel indispensable, to be the reason someone smiles, to be the one they call first in moments of joy or despair, to be the source of comfort and the anchor of stability. Love believes it is at its peak when it holds this power, but when it meets a man who stands strong with or without it, who does not place his sense of self in its hands, love is forced into a confrontation with its own insecurity. How does love prove its relevance when it is not demanded? How does it feel powerful when its presence is not necessary for survival? This is where fascination is born. The man who needs no one becomes the riddle love cannot solve. He awakens in love a burning need to matter, to find a way into a life that does not seem to require it. His independence does not dismiss love, but it refuses to worship it. And that balance becomes intoxicating. He does not run from love, yet he does not chase it. He welcomes it, but he does not surrender his wholeness to it. In that stance lies a challenge that makes love restless and endlessly curious. Love, by its nature, is drawn to places where it can make an impact. It longs to fill gaps, heal wounds, or complete what feels unfinished. But when there are no visible gaps, no wounds waiting for rescue, no emptiness demanding to be filled, love must reinvent itself. It must go deeper beyond the surface level roles it usually plays to find significance. The man who needs no one pushes love into transformation, forcing it to prove itself in ways it never had to before. Love cannot just be desired, it must become undeniable. And so, the desire for relevance grows stronger. Love does not want to be forgotten, ignored, or reduced to an option. It wants to be unforgettable, to mark itself permanently on the heart. This is why independence becomes love's greatest test. The less someone needs, the more love aches to be chosen. For when you cannot be needed, the only victory is to be wanted. And that is the highest form of relevance love can ever achieve. Detachment is often misunderstood as indifference, but in reality, it is one of the purest forms of strength. It is the ability to feel deeply without losing control, to care without collapsing, to give without the desperation of needing something in return. A man who practices detachment does not push love away, but he does not allow love to dictate the rhythm of his soul. His emotions may run deep, but they do not govern him. This calm separation between feeling and dependence creates an energy that both confuses and captivates anyone who encounters him. Most people are enslaved by their emotions. They rise and fall with every glance, every word, every change in someone's tone. They build their sense of worth around another's attention and unravel the moment it is withdrawn. But detachment is the opposite of this fragility. It is the choice to remain steady when others expect you to break. It is an inner discipline that says, I can love you, but I will not lose myself in you. That level of control radiates a quiet power that no drama, no threat, and no manipulation can penetrate. For love, this detachment becomes a challenge. Love wants to be the center, the fire that consumes, the force that overtakes reason. It thrives on pulling someone in completely, making them surrender everything for its presence. Yet when it meets a man who does not shatter in its absence, who does not beg for its warmth, love finds itself unsettled. His detachment does not mean he is cold or incapable. It means he is free. And freedom is the one thing love cannot easily bind. This power of detachment turns every interaction into a mystery. His silence is not born from neglect, but from choice. His distance is not rejection, but self-possession. When he steps back, it is not because he has nothing to give, but because he knows when to stop giving. In that restraint, he forces love to question its own hold. How do you conquer someone who refuses to be conquered? How do you own someone who will not be owned? These unanswered questions deepen the attraction and make his presence unforgettable. Detachment does not kill intimacy, it redefines it. It allows love to flourish without suffocation, to breathe without fear, to exist without chains. The man who is detached is not hiding, he is protecting the sacred balance between his heart and his freedom. He is saying, I choose you, but I do not need you to complete me. And that is where his strength becomes irresistible. Because the moment love realizes it cannot control him, it begins to crave him more. The power of detachment lies in knowing that love is beautiful but not survival, desired but not demanded, welcomed but never worshipped. This truth unsettles love because it wants to be the only air one breathes. Yet the man who is detached proves a greater truth. You can love fully and still belong to yourself. Scarcity has always been the foundation of value. What is easily available is often overlooked, but what is rare becomes unforgettable. Human nature is wired to chase what it cannot easily possess, to treasure what feels distant, to fight harder for what cannot be reached at will. When a man refuses to make himself constantly available, when he is not at the mercy of every call, every demand, every fleeting need, his presence begins to feel like a luxury, and in that luxury lies his power. Most people exhaust themselves by being everywhere, by overgiving, by proving their worth through constant availability. They believe presence guarantees love, but instead it dilutes it. What is abundant loses its shine. Love does not long for what it already owns. It longs for what resists being owned. The man who understands this truth instinctively withholds, not as a game, not out of manipulation, but out of self-respect. He knows that his time, his attention, and his energy are not infinite, and therefore he refuses to waste them on what is unworthy. That refusal transforms him into something rare. Scarcity is not about absence, it is about intentional presence. It is the ability to show up with depth rather than drowning others in excess. When a man chooses when to give and when to hold back, he creates a rhythm that love cannot predict. That unpredictability builds desire because it turns every interaction into something meaningful. His words are not thrown carelessly, they are measured. His gestures are not constant, they are deliberate. And because they are rare, they are remembered. Love finds itself challenged here because it is used to being fed endlessly, to being the center of constant attention. But when faced with scarcity, love begins to adapt. It leans in closer, it listens harder, it values more deeply. The less it receives, the more it treasures. The silence becomes as powerful as the words, the distance as meaningful as the closeness. Scarcity transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary ones, and that transformation builds attachment far stronger than abundance ever could. The man who embraces scarcity is not withholding love. He is protecting its value. He knows that worth is never found in overexposure, but in measured depth. He understands that when you make yourself too easy to reach, you become too easy to dismiss. His distance is not neglect, it is preservation. It preserves his energy, his self-respect, and most importantly, the significance of his presence. And so love begins to chase. It becomes restless. It grows more determined. It craves more desperately. Scarcity awakens in love the very desire it is built upon, the desire to matter, the desire to win, the desire to finally claim what feels untouchable. What is rare cannot be forgotten, and what is rare will always be pursued. That is why scarcity, when embraced with strength and authenticity, becomes the silent force that multiplies value and makes a man unforgettable in the eyes of love. The struggle between ego and emotion is one of the oldest battles in the human heart. Ego demands control, dominance, and recognition. Emotion longs for connection, surrender, and vulnerability. When love enters the picture, these two forces collide, each trying to shape the experience, each unwilling to yield fully to the other. A man who needs no one embodies this battle perfectly because his ego will not allow him to be conquered, yet his emotions, though deep and alive, refuse to be easily revealed. This tension creates a storm that love cannot resist. Ego thrives on victory. It wants to be the unshakable wall, the one that cannot be moved, the force that refuses to bend. It whispers, "Do not give in. Do not let them see your weakness. Do not let anyone believe you need them." On the other side, emotion whispers something softer yet equally powerful. Feel, connect, let yourself be touched, let love in. The man who stands in the middle of this clash is neither cold nor weak. He is human. And it is this balance that makes him so difficult to understand and so captivating to pursue. For love, this battle is intoxicating. Love thrives on vulnerability, on breaking through defenses, on being the exception to the rule. When love encounters ego, it feels challenged to prove its power. When it brushes against emotion, it feels encouraged to keep trying. This constant tug of war between ego and emotion keeps love restless, never certain if it has won or lost. One moment, ego dominates and keeps distance. The next, emotion surfaces and invites closeness. It is this unpredictability that makes love fight harder, because nothing is more compelling than a heart that refuses to be fully conquered. The truth is, ego fears being diminished while emotion fears being denied. Together, they create a paradox: strength with sensitivity, distance with desire, silence with depth. Love cannot walk away from such a paradox. It is drawn to it. It wants to be the one that melts the ego without destroying it, the one that awakens the emotion without overwhelming it. And so, love keeps pushing, keeps testing, keeps trying to find the balance point where ego bows and emotion rises. The man who holds both in his grasp remains unshaken. He allows his ego to protect him from being consumed, but he allows his emotions to remind him of his humanity. He does not live in extremes. He does not let pride rob him of connection, nor does he let emotions enslave him into dependence. This balance becomes his power. It leaves love in a state of awe, caught between frustration and fascination. The battle between ego and emotion does not weaken him, it strengthens him. It makes him unpredictable, unbreakable, and unforgettable. Because in the end, ego may win battles, but emotion wins hearts. And the man who masters both becomes the challenge love cannot walk away from. Silence is often mistaken for emptiness, but in truth, it is one of the most powerful languages a man can speak. Words can be rehearsed, exaggerated, or manipulated, but silence carries a raw, unfiltered truth. It cannot be faked. It forces the listener to interpret, to wonder, to lean in closer. When a man needs no one, his silence becomes his loudest presence. It unsettles those around him because it denies them the comfort of certainty. They cannot predict what he feels, what he thinks, or what he will do. In that uncertainty lies his strength. Most people rush to fill silence with explanations, reassurances, or confessions. They fear that silence will be mistaken for indifference, so they overcompensate with words. But the man who embraces silence does not carry this fear. He is comfortable with the space between words, with the stillness that others find unbearable. He knows that silence has weight. It lingers longer than any speech. It echoes deeper than any argument, and it creates a presence stronger than noise ever could. His silence is not avoidance, it is control. It shows that he does not feel pressured to prove himself or rush to ease someone else's insecurity. For love, this silence is a challenge it cannot ignore. Love craves expression. It longs for declarations, for constant proof, for reassurance wrapped in words. Yet when love meets silence, it is forced into reflection. It begins to question, what is he thinking? Does he care? Why won't he reveal himself? These questions stir obsession. Silence creates a void, and the heart cannot tolerate a void. It seeks to fill it, to break it, to decode it. And in that pursuit, love becomes restless, intrigued, and deeply drawn to the man who chooses silence over noise. silence also magnifies presence. A single glance, a pause, or the refusal to respond can carry more weight than hours of conversation. The man who uses silence wisely understands that not every thought deserves to be spoken, not every emotion needs to be shared. By withholding, he increases his value. His silence demands attention in ways his words never could. It is a test, a mirror, and a shield all at once. This silence unsettles because it cannot be controlled. Words can be manipulated, promises can be broken, but silence offers no foothold. It leaves love exposed, vulnerable to its own imagination. And often, the imagination fills silence with more power than truth ever could. The man who wields silence knows this. He lets others wrestle with their own thoughts while he remains calm, unshaken, and unhurried. The silence that speaks is not about absence, it is about presence. It is the presence of someone who does not beg to be understood, who does not seek constant validation, who allows his mystery to speak louder than explanations. In that silence, love finds its greatest frustration and its greatest fascination, because nothing is louder, nothing is more commanding than the silence of a man who needs no one. Patience and persistence are the two forces love leans on when it encounters resistance. Love is used to doors opening quickly, hearts unfolding easily, and emotions rushing in without hesitation. But when faced with a man who needs no one, love finds itself in a different terrain where nothing is hurried, nothing is guaranteed, and nothing can be forced. This is where love is tested most deeply. His independence becomes a quiet filter, separating what is fleeting from what is genuine. Only those willing to endure the test of time, silence, and consistency ever come close to reaching him. A man who needs no one does not rush into connections. He is not swayed by temporary emotions or momentary attractions. He has no interest in being conquered by charm or overwhelmed by intensity. He values consistency over passion and persistence over promises. To him, love that cannot endure time is not love, it is just impulse. And so he waits. He watches. He lets the masks of others fall away while he remains unshaken. This waiting is not passivity. It is strength. It is the ability to remain grounded when others expect urgency, to hold still when the world demands reaction. For love, this waiting is maddening. Love thrives on immediate recognition, on feeling chosen quickly and assuredly. But with him, there are no shortcuts. He does not offer himself at the first knock. He does not surrender at the first sign of affection. Instead, he demands patience, not through words, but through the way he lives. And in demanding patience, he reveals who truly values him, because those who cannot endure the wait were never meant to stay, and those who persist prove themselves worthy. Persistence, however, is not about chasing endlessly. It is about showing depth consistently. It is about proving that love is not a passing desire, but a steady devotion. When every attempt to break through his calm resistance is met with silence or composure, only genuine love continues the pursuit. Pretenders grow tired, impulses fade, but real love remains. And in that persistence, he sees the truth, not in grand gestures, but in unwavering presence. This test of patience and persistence turns love inward. It forces it to ask, am I here for the thrill of the chase or for the truth of connection? Many will walk away when patience is demanded, but those who remain discover that his guarded heart, once reached, is worth every effort. For his independence is not a wall to keep love out, but a filter to keep illusions away. The man who needs no one teaches love its greatest lesson, that time reveals all. Impatience exposes weakness, while persistence proves strength. He does not yield to fleeting passion, but he respects enduring devotion. And it is in this test, where many fail and few succeed, that love is transformed into something rare, resilient, and undeniable. True power has never been about control over others. It has always been about control over yourself. The greatest strength a man can possess is the ability to stand whole without needing anyone to complete him. Not needing is not arrogance, it is freedom. It is the refusal to let one's happiness, identity, or stability depend on something fragile or temporary. When a man does not need, he becomes untouchable because nothing can be used against him and no absence can break him. This is the kind of power that unsettles love the most. Most people enter relationships from a place of need. They seek validation, security, and belonging. They want someone else to fill the emptiness they refuse to face within themselves. But this kind of love is weak. It is love built on dependency, not on choice. Need makes you vulnerable to manipulation. It gives someone else the keys to your peace, your confidence, and your worth. The man who does not need strips that power away. He does not hand over his identity to anyone, which means no one can use it against him. His love, when he gives it, is pure, because it is not born from desperation, but from freedom. For love, this is both fascinating and frustrating. Love longs to be the center of someone's existence, to be the thing they cannot live without. But when it faces a man who does not collapse in its absence, who can walk alone without breaking, love finds itself disarmed. It cannot bind him with fear of loss, nor control him through promises of forever. He remains steady whether love stays or leaves, and that steadiness makes him love's greatest challenge. What makes his power irresistible is that his love is never forced, it is chosen. When a man does not need, his presence in love is not an act of survival, but of genuine desire. He does not stay because he must. He stays because he wants to. This difference transforms his love into something rare and valuable. To be chosen by someone who does not need you is far more powerful than being needed by someone who cannot stand without you. His freedom makes his commitment weightier, his devotion deeper, his loyalty stronger. This independence also protects him. Disappointments cannot destroy him, abandonment cannot define him, and rejection cannot weaken him. His self-worth is not built on shifting ground. It is rooted within. Love may come and go, but his power remains untouched. And because he cannot be shaken, love keeps returning to him, drawn to the mystery of someone who does not cling, someone who does not beg, someone who does not crumble. True power lies in not needing, because need gives others control while freedom keeps it within you. A man who does not need is not empty, he is overflowing. He does not take from others to feel whole. He shares his wholeness with them. And that is the kind of power love can never break, only respect, only crave, and only pursue endlessly. In the end, the man who needs no one is not heartless, nor is he unreachable. He is whole. His independence, his silence, his detachment, his discipline in patience, and his refusal to be conquered all point to one truth. Love cannot claim him through need, only through choice. That is why he becomes love's greatest challenge. Because love is used to being the center, but with him it must transform. It must prove itself. It must rise higher than dependency and reach the rarest form of connection, the kind born from freedom, not from lack. To stand complete without needing anyone is the ultimate strength, but to love from that completeness is the ultimate gift, and that is what makes him unforgettable. He cannot be owned, he cannot be broken, and he cannot be diminished. He can only be chosen, and in being chosen, he elevates love itself.